Hello and a very warm welcome to all the viewers. Hope you all are fit and fine and finding my videos helpful to you. Before moving on to today's topic, just a gentle reminder that if you are visiting the channel for first time, please don't forget to subscribe my channel so that we remain connected and you get all the latest notifications. So as you can see on your screen, today we are going to deal with clauses. Now, to make the topic easy and simple for you, I have divided this video into 4 parts. And in this part, that is part 1, we are going to deal only with clauses and its types. That is, we are going to study what actually a clause is, what are its types, that is classification, and few terminologies related to this topic. And in the upcoming videos, that is videos which I will upload after this, will cover the detailed study of adjective clause, noun clause and adverb clause. So now let's begin the topic, clauses. Let's first see what actually a clause is. As you can see on your screen, a clause is a group of words which has a subject and a finite verb of its own. And the subject of the clause can be mentioned or hidden, but the verb must be distinguishable. Now, a clause actually is a sentence only. The condition is that it should have a subject and a finite verb of its own. Now, you know what is a finite verb? A verb which is controlled by the subject or the number of persons, or it is controlled by the tense, is a finite verb. Now, sometimes the subject of the clause can be mentioned or hidden, but the verb must be distinguishable. That is, in many sentences, the subject may be hidden. That is, in the imperative sentences, where we are not forced to write the subject. That is, subject is hidden, but the verb must be clearly identified. The examples will make it more clear to you. See, here I have taken 4 examples, and in the first one, the man has not arrived. Now it is a single clause. We have single clause because single subject and single verb, finite verb. So it is a single clause. In the second example, the man has not arrived, but he will soon be here. The man has not arrived is one clause. He will soon be here is the another clause, joined by the conjunction but. So here we have 2 clauses. That is why I mentioned here double clause. When I came here, I saw him and he greeted me. Now here we have 3 sentences or 3 clauses. When I came here, I saw him and he greeted me. He greeted me is the third clause. So what actually I want to tell you is that in a sentence, we can have a single clause, a double clause, or more number of clauses. It is not necessary that a sentence consists of only a single clause. It can have 1, 2, or 3, even more number of clauses. And the fourth sentence, see, it is an example of imperative sentence. Listen to me. It is also a single clause because here the subject you is hidden. Subject you is hidden, as it is an imperative sentence. As I told you earlier, that in imperative sentences we need not mention the subject. It is understood. Now let's try to understand the types of clauses. As you can see on your screen, the clauses can be categorized into 2 types. So broadly they are classified into 2 types. That is the independent clause and the dependent clause. So these are the first 2 terms related to clauses, independent and dependent. Now this independent clause is also known as coordinate clause. So independent clause or coordinate clauses, both are same thing. Don't get confused. Even sometimes this independent clause is also known as principal clause or main clause. So there are 4 terms related to independent clause. and many students get confused regarding this. So we if we say independent clause or coordinate clause or main clause or principal clause, all four are same, that is they are independent clause, and mostly you will find it in the form of coordinate clause, that is it is referred to as coordinate clause because the term coordinate means of equal rank or equal status. So independent clauses are also known as coordinate clauses because all the clauses in a sentence are of equal status and they can stand on their own. They need not be dependent on the other. Now, the second type is dependent clause, or it is also known as subordinate clause. As the name indicates, dependent. The word dependent means when someone is dependent on other, when we depend on other to fulfill our need. So we will be termed as dependent. Similarly here, the clause which cannot stand on its own, that is, which cannot justify its meaning alone, and to stand it has to take the help of main clause or principal clause. Unless and until we read the dependent clause along with the independent clause, it does not make any sense. That is why it is called dependent clause or subordinate clause, because it depends on the main clause to make its meaning clear, and it is also termed as subordinate clause. So clauses can be broadly classified into two types: independent clause and dependent clause. Now this dependent clause or subordinate clause can further be classified into three types. That is, the subordinate clause can be of three types: noun clause, adjective clause, and adverb clause. And this adverb clause can again be of adverb clause of time, place, manner, reason, purpose, comparison, etc. that we are going to cover in the detailed video of adverb clauses. So just a quick summary. Types of clauses. Clauses can be broadly classified into two types: independent clause and dependent clause. Independent clause is also known as coordinate clause, and dependent clause is also known as subordinate clause. Subordinate clause can be further divided into noun clause, adjective clause, and adverb clause. Let's see independent clause. Let's try to understand what an independent clause is. Independent clause, as earlier told, they are also known as coordinate clause. So coordinate clauses connected by coordinators such as and, or, but, so, etc. Now these coordinate clauses are so whenever we say coordinate clauses, we should understand that we are talking about independent clause. So coordinate clauses are usually connected by coordinators. Coordinators means coordinating conjunctions. So these coordinate clauses are connected by coordinators like and, or, but, so, etc. These coordinators are also sometimes referred to as coordinating conjunctions. So coordinate clauses or independent clauses are joined by coordinators or coordinating conjunctions. Let's take the example. He is an honest man. Now this is without any coordinator. This is a single clause. Let's take another one. He went to London and visited the Lords. Now here see, he went to London is the first clause and visited the Lords is the second clause. Actually the complete sentence is he visited the Lords. They are mentioned here in the braces. In second part of this sentence, subject he is hidden. Here the subject he is hidden. So we could write these two sentences independently. That is, first sentence is he went to London, full stop, and the second sentence is he visited the Lords. But here we have connected both the sentences or both the clauses with the help of a coordinator, that is coordinating conjunction and. I want to buy a phone, but I don't have enough money. Again, we are having two clauses. I want to buy a phone, but I don't have enough money. Joined by the coordinator but or the coordinating conjunction. That is why in this video I have tried to make you familiar with the terms. First, you should understand the terms regarding this topic. Subordinate clause, coordinate clause, dependent clause, independent clause, coordinators, coordinating conjunction. So many of the students, they get confused because new terms are here. So first, be familiar with the terms, and in the coming videos I'm going to have a detailed study. I'm going to prepare 3 more videos, that is on noun clause, adjective clause and adverb clause. Now let's go through the dependent clause. Dependent clause, as I've earlier told you, that it is also subordinate clause and joined by subordinators. Like in coordinate clauses were joined by coordinators, similarly subordinate clauses are joined by subordinators, such as which, where, if, etc. There are many. So subordinators or subordinating conjunctions. When we say subordinators, you should understand we are talking about subordinating conjunctions. When we say coordinator, you should understand that we are talking about coordinating conjunctions. So subordinate clauses are joined by subordinators. Let's go through the examples. I know the man who stole the car. Now here I have used different shades to write the sentence. Now the white portion represents the main clause and the other color portion represents the subordinate clause. I know the man who stole the car. Now if we read only the white colored sentence, that is I know the man, so it makes complete sense. And if we read separately the second part, that is who stole the car, if we were to read only this much, who stole the car, then it doesn't make any sense. So in order to understand the meaning of this part of the sentence, we have to read it along with this part, that is I know the man. So if you read this full sentence, I know the man who stole the car, then only it makes complete sense. That is, to understand this part, we have to read it along with the first part of the sentence. So this is the dependent clause because it depends on the main clause. It depends on the main clause. So this is dependent clause, this is independent clause. He bought a house which was very expensive. He bought a house makes complete sense. But if we read separately, which was very expensive doesn't give a clear meaning. So to understand it, we have to read it along with the first part. He bought a house which was very expensive. Then only it makes complete sense. So for its meaning, the subordinate clauses, they depend on main clause. When his son was old enough, he took him to school. When his son was old enough, he took him to school. If you don't apologize, I won't go. So here, one thing you must have noticed that in the first two examples, I haven't used comma, whereas in the last two examples, I'm using comma here. So always remember, whenever the dependent clause is written first and the main clause is written afterwards, then we have to use a comma after the dependent clause or the subordinate clause. So in the first two examples, we are writing the main clause first and dependent clause later on. That is why we haven't used comma here. But if we were to write the subordinate clause first and then the main clause or the independent clause, we have to put a comma after the subordinate clause or the dependent clause. If you don't apologize, I won't go. So in both these sentences, we have mentioned subordinate clause first. So whenever you come across a comma in clauses, if there is a comma, you should understand that the first part is a dependent clause and the later part is the main clause or principal clause. Now, depending upon how the subordinate clauses function, now these subordinate clauses, all the four subordinate clauses, they perform different kind of functions in the sentence. Now, depending upon their functions, they can be classified into noun, adjective, and adverb clause. So, all these four portions which I have mentioned here, some of them are noun clause, some of them can be adjective, some of them can be adverb, depending upon the function they perform. And this we are going to cover in the upcoming videos. So please stay connected, and if you haven't yet subscribed my channel, please do the same so that you get the latest notifications of the upcoming videos. So in my next video I am going to cover the subordinate clauses and its types. That is, I am going to prepare separate videos on noun clause, adjective clause, and adverb clause. Hope you understood the terms related to clauses. Basically here you have to only focus on clauses, its types, and try to identify the main clause and subordinate clause. So with this we put an end to this video. Hope you understood it. Thank you for watching my video. Have a nice day.